Hello everybody, I am Keaton, and this is Kid Catholic Season 9, Episode 20. I hope that you all are having a fantastic 2021 so far. I know I am. It's kind of weird that it's 2021. I keep saying in my head that it's 2020, but it's not. It's crazy. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that I think is, it's of the utmost importance, especially in the society that we are in today. It is not wrong to say that we as Catholics, even Christians in general, regardless of the denomination, are not the most loved people in our country right now, right? It's not as bad compared to other countries, obviously, but it's not great, and it's not wrong to say that this society does encourage sort of indulging in sin, and a big part of this is due to relativism, and that's what I wanted to focus on for today's video, is this idea of relativism. Now, relativism, it can sound kind of confusing. I want to give it a rundown basically first of what it is. So the definition of relativism, I have it right here, is the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context, and are not absolute. Basically, relativism is the belief that what is right and what is wrong changes over time and is all up to the individual. So it's basically the belief that there is no absolute truth, but that there are different persons' truths. So your truth or my truth. It is essentially the belief that what is morally right and what is morally wrong changes over time or depending on the person. And this may have, for some people, this belief may have good intention. However, I want to sort of explain why relativism is flat out wrong. And it's important to separate the types of relativism, especially when it comes to the Catholic Church. The big one is global relativism. That is the belief that there are just no absolute truths whatsoever, that everything is up to the individual person. And an easy way to disprove that, sort of explain how it's wrong, is by asking, well, is it absolutely true that there are no absolute truths? If the answer is yes, then that literally debunks the entire belief, because then there is an absolute truth, right? We know that things are true. If I say, this is a video, that is truthful, right? That is a truthful statement to make. That is an absolute truth. That cannot be debated. That's a objective truth. And so this belief of global relativism it doesn't make any logical sense. And that's why it's not the most common one. A big common belief that people have is moral relativism. A belief that there are absolute truths in some things, such as science or general knowledge, such as this is a video. But the belief that morals do not have absolute truth. And on the surface, you can think, oh, well, that can't contradict itself, right? There's no way that can contradict itself. However, one who believes this will hesitate to say that, oh, moral relativism is true, but will say, well, we should live in a way in which moral relativism is true, right? We shouldn't force our moral beliefs upon everybody else because everybody has their own right and wrong. Everybody has their own moral belief. And if we are being told by someone who believes in moral relativism that we should live in such a way that moral relativism is true, then that's them forcing their morals on us, which is sort of a pitfall in their whole belief, right? It refutes that idea of the existence of moral relativism. But it's not just that. There's a big way in which this falls down. The idea that, hey, I may think this is wrong, but you may think this is right, and so that makes it right. So if a person robs a bank, we can say, you know what, I can't say anything about that because that was probably right to that person. If it fits within that person's moral right, then I should just accept that, right? It may be morally wrong to me, but not to that person. No, that's not how it works. It is objectively morally wrong to rob a bank, but it's just how it is, right? Just like how it's objectively morally wrong to do a lot of things. This is the truth. This is not my truth or your truth. So this idea of relativism doesn't make any sense. But it's not just that relativism isn't true. It's also that relativism is a morally wrong standpoint. I wanted to read some quotes. One from an amazing author, G.K. Chesterton. He says, "The modern habit of saying every man has a different philosophy. This is my philosophy and it suits me. The habit of saying this is mere weak-mindedness. A cosmic philosophy is not constructed to fit a man. A cosmic philosophy is constructed to fit a cosmos. A man can no more possess a private religion than he can possess a private sun or moon." Essentially explaining why that idea of, oh, my truth versus your truth is wrong. Another one by a famous philosopher, Kwame Anthony Appiah, talks about this as well. He says, people often recommend relativism because they think it will lead to tolerance. But if we cannot learn from one another what is right to think and feel and do, then conversation between us will be pointless. Relativism of that sort isn't a way to encourage conversation. It's just a reason to fall silent. So this belief in relativism, it isn't morally correct, especially within the Catholic Church, and that is a big thing that I want to focus on. The Catholic Church doesn't change its belief over time, right? A big saying that we heard especially last year, we haven't heard it this year just because the year just started, but, oh, you're against this or you don't believe in this? Well, it's 2020. Why do you still think that, right? It's 2020, get caught up with the times, right? That is a form of relativism, saying what is morally right and morally wrong should change by now. The Catholic Church doesn't do that. The Catholic Church has absolute truths. The Catholic Church does not change our beliefs just because society has changed or just because culture has changed, right? As a result, people can view the Catholic Church as just oppressive and making rules and mean and all this, right? When in reality, the Catholic Church has had the exact same moral standard for thousands of years. That's something that is not going to change just because society tries to say that what is morally correct and what is morally not correct is different than it used to be. Just because society says it doesn't make it true, right? And there are several examples of this. That is, a big one is women priests, right? There's this sort of idea that because the dogma that priests cannot be women, which is something that cannot be changed, that is a teaching of the Catholic Church that cannot be changed and has stayed the same, somehow this sort of belief that the Catholic Church has makes the Catholic Church sexist and makes the Catholic Church awful, and that's not true at all, right? That's why we have nuns. That's why we have the Blessed Virgin Mary in the first place, right? And is the opposite of sexism, but again, it makes the Catholic Church, to some people, appear just oppressive simply because the Catholic Church doesn't go along with relativism, which again is the belief that morals are different based on the person, and the belief that what is morally right and what is morally wrong changes over time. A couple more are living together before marriage. A big one with coronavirus is not needing to go to church. Hey, there's a virus out there. You can make your church at home. It's perfectly fine. Stay home. Don't go to church. Of course, it's important to be careful with anything. However, going to church is still of the utmost importance, right? Going to church no matter what. And aside from the dispensation right now, in a normal time, we have obligatory Sunday Mass. We are obliged to go to church. That's because this idea of making our church at home or making our church at different places. Of course we can talk to God at different places. Of course we can talk to God at home. However, what we do not have at home that we do at church is the sacraments, right? Is reconciliation, is especially the Eucharist, right? We have the Eucharist present in Mass, physically at Mass, not at home. And that's the difference. That is something that society is trying to tell us. I want to take a look in the CCC. Right here in the CCC 2464, it sort of explains how the 8th commandment explains truth. We read, the 8th commandment forbids misinterpreting the truth in our relations with others. This moral prescription flows from the vocation of the holy people to bear witness to their God, who is the truth and wills the truth. Offenses against the truth expressed by word or deed, a refusal to commit oneself to moral uprightness. They are fundamentals, infidelities to God, and in this sense, they undermine the foundations of the covenant, right? Explaining right there, well, that's what the 8th commandment talks about. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, but explaining right there that there is the truth, and God is the truth, and God wills the truth. That's because there is not my truth, there is not your truth, there is only the truth. And I feel like a lot of times we as Catholics, especially teenagers, right, especially kids, my generation of people, we have a tendency to sort of fall into this trap of relativism, right? Because on the surface, we can say, hey, respecting everyone's belief, that's a good thing. And yeah, of course, we're not going to go up to somebody and be like, hey, your belief is just dumb and you're wrong, right? Of course not. We should respect everybody's beliefs, but that doesn't mean that we should call everybody's beliefs correct. And there's a difference. Not everybody's belief is right. There is going to be one belief that is right. Just like how you can't say, well, multiple religions can be correct. No, there is one true religion, and that is the Catholic Church. And so we, not even teenagers, but Catholics in general, maybe with good intentions, with good heart, tend to walk the line bordering into relativism. And that is something that we need to try to stop. As Kwame Anthony Appiah, that quote that I read earlier, talks about how relativism, because they think it will lead to tolerance. And we sometimes can think, of course, tolerance is a great thing, so let's go along with this. However, relativism is never morally acceptable, because there is not my truth, there is not your truth, there is only the truth. Does that mean that we shouldn't respect other people's beliefs? No. Does that mean that we shouldn't tolerate people? Of course not. That's not what that means. However, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that there is the truth, that the Catholic Church is the truth, and that the Catholic Church set of beliefs are the truth. And just because the Catholic Church isn't going to change their beliefs and adapt to what society wants to say or wants to believe, that doesn't make the Catholic Church oppressive. That just makes the Catholic Church factual, right? The Catholic Church sticking to the absolute truths, the absolute dogmas of the Catholic Church. Things that we, as Catholics, we as teenagers, we as kids need to stay out of falling into that trap. And we need to stand up against this idea of relativism. As scary as it may be, we need to stand with the Catholic Church and acknowledge that this idea of my truth and your truth, while maybe good intentions, isn't correct. So, now that the topic is done, do y'all know what it's time for now? It's time for
the Saint of the Week!
And today's Saint of the Week is St. Maximus the Confessor. St. Maximus the Confessor was a 6th century saint, and the reason I chose him for this topic is because he just has an absolutely incredible story to go along with sort of standing up for what we as Catholics see as right, which is what I mentioned earlier with relativism. So, St. Maximus the Confessor, what I want to focus on with him was he was a monk, and there was this heresy, a big one going around at that time called monothelitism. Basically, this was the belief that Jesus only had a divine will, not a human will. And so this sort of made it out to be Jesus wasn't God, he was just human with a divine will. And while this sounds little, like a little thing, like, oh, that's not that big a deal, when it comes to the entire basis, the foundation of the Catholic Church teaching, that is a big deal to preach that heresy. It was something that was flat out not true. And St. Maximus the Confessor stood up for this, and him and 2 people by his side as a result of how much he stood up for the faith, not just with this heresy, but in many things. He had his tongue cut off and his right hand cut off and was sent away, where he would later die. The reason I chose him for today's topic is because when we talk about relativism and when we talk about falling into that trap and trying to stay away from what today's society makes us or tries to make us believe, St. Maximus the Confessor is a perfect example of that, right? Heresies going around at the time, a lot of them were trying to cut corners in order to get more people into the Catholic Church. The reality is, if people don't accept the teachings of the Catholic Church, the most that we can do is pray for them. I mean, obviously we can try to reach out to them, but if that doesn't work, then the most we can do is pray for them. And St. Maximus the Confessor knew that instead of changing church teaching or trying to adapt to what the world wanted to say at the time, which is what we're seeing today, and St. Maximus the Confessor stood against this. So anytime we feel like we're struggling with this, or anytime we feel like we or someone we know may be following into the trap of relativism, maybe with perfectly good intentions, we can always pray through St. Maximus the Confessor for help. So St. Maximus the Confessor, pray for us. So before y'all click off this video, really quickly, it would be greatly appreciated if you could please click the red subscribe button down below and the bell next to it. That way you get notified when I come out with a new video. It really does help boost this ministry, boost this channel, and it would be greatly appreciated. Also, I am doing in-person talks since the COVID shutdown, and so it'd be awesome if I could come to speak to your church, parish, school, event, whatever it may be. Please go to kidcatholic.com and the contact me page, and we can work out details, or email me directly at kidcatholic1@gmail.com, and we can discuss details about it that way. Also, please go visit my website, kidcatholic.com. You can buy your own Kid Catholic t-shirt. All my videos are up there. All my speaking or details about my speaking engagements are up there. And then please please like the video, and please comment any saint or topic suggestions that you might have. And please check out all 3 of my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That was a very long outro, but there's a lot going on, so I appreciate you, if you're still watching, staying until the end. Yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. Again, I hope you all are having a wonderful 2021 so far. Let me know in the comments how it's going. I'll see you all next week, and hi, Brielle.